Welcome back, guys. This is the 50/50 project, or at least that's what I'm going to be calling it from here on out. We're going to be washing the CRX here and doing our full prep wash for coatings. We do this before any Ceramic Pro project or any paint protection film project. And the car obviously has a lot of defects in it. There's going to be even more that show up after we do our inspection wash, because we're going to be stripping off all the contaminants that happen, over a 30-year period. There's brake dust, rail dust, environmental fallout, bugs and bird poop, and all that sort of stuff just sticks to the paint and creates this really rough surface. So we're going to be using Americano Release as an iron fallout remover, and then we're going to be using a clay bar to remove all the surface contaminants. Look at fused wash soap, red knot super drying towel. Now I like to use a pressure washer to foam the car before and to rinse off all the debris. This is a medium pressure because we use a really large orifice tip. That's not going to cause any damage to the paint, and it is going to be really safe to be able to remove the dirt without scratching the car any further. Now after foaming the car with F-Bomb, I'm going to let it soak for a while. All this foam has a really nice cling, so it's going to dwell for a while, and it's going to break down a lot of the surface contaminants and really strip all of the light surface dirt off of the car, so that when we're touching the car, we're instilling a few amount of scratches as possible. So the next part of the wash process, we're going to use Americano Release. It's a product here that removes iron and fallout from the paint. This is all stuff that's actually embedded into the paint, whereas a clay bar is going to remove all the stuff that's sitting on top and bonded to it. So we're going to spray the car down, let this soak for a while. On a white car, you would notice a really pink purpley haze or little speckles dripping down. That's going to be the Americano Release breaking down the iron in the paint. So before we go on to the claying process, we're going to wash the car. We're going to use the Americana wash soap. Now, this is a silica infused wash soap. We like using this for the maintenance wash, but also for the decontamination wash, just because it is such a safe soap to use. And our 2-bucket method here, we've got our rinse solution and our wash solution. Both of them have the soap in it, just so that we're not diluting the washing power. But we rinse off in our rinse bucket to get all the dirt and stuff off, and then we get clean wash soap out of our wash bucket. On this back bumper, I can already feel there is a lot of contamination. It's really rough surface, so claying is going to remove all that rough texture off of there. Looks like somebody burned through already. Damn. So when I was rinsing off the car, I actually noticed over here on the driver's side, there's already a really thin spot, probably from a lot of buffing going on. I did notice when I picked up the car that the front end had been repainted, so maybe when they took it to the body shop, they buffed out the whole car and caused this little burn through spot here. Next, we're going to go on to the drying process. There's a few tools that I use in the drying process that I just discovered in the last year that really make it so much easier. So we're going to go over the Metro Blaster, and we're going to go over the Autofiber Dreadnought towel. So this is my favorite towel, honestly, that I've ever found, the Dreadnought Super Drying Towel. It's actually got a twisted loop pile, so it means that these fibers actually have a little bit of a twist to them. And I don't know the science behind it, but they absorb water like crazy. I use that in combination with the Metro Master Blaster. This thing's got 2 motors in it. You've actually got to have a 20 amp circuit just to power this guy. But this helps to expel all the water from behind the emblems, mirrors, door handles, that sort of stuff. So I'm going to flip this guy on, use the towel, and get the car dried up before we tape off half the car. So even though we use the release and the wash soap and everything, we're still going to have a little bit of surface contamination, and that comes off with a clay bar. One thing I really like to do to show customers that don't really understand the process is use a plastic bag like this, and we just take this, we wipe it over the panel, and we're gonna feel and we're gonna hear that contamination. And one particularly bad area that I noticed is this back bumper here. So now that we've washed the car, we're gonna tape down the center of it and clay it, but before I do that, I'm gonna check out the paint, inspect it with a few different lights that we have, and see what kind of things that we're gonna be able to remove, what kind of things we can't remove, and if panels have been repainted, that sort of stuff. So I've got the scan grip light. This is really popular among the industry, super high quality light. One thing I like about this one is we've got one color, and then if we hold down the button, we can actually switch it to more of a yellow color. It's, I want to say 6500K versus 4300K. That shows on different colored paints what kind of defects that we've got going on. Obviously, we've got really heavy scratches, swirls in the paint, a lot of rock chips and stuff here. Those we're going to be touching up. On a hood that's as hammered as this, we're probably not going to be able to get it perfect, but we are going to be able to improve it quite a bit. And I'll show you the other flashlight that I really like to use. This one's just handheld. I'll link this in the description, but this light here really does a great job. Something you can throw in your pocket. It has a 6500 Kelvin spectrum, but you can also aim this one so that you've got a really tight pattern or a really wide pattern. So this works really well though for inspecting. Like we've got a really deep scratch right here that is probably going to come out with the stage 2 correction. May not be 100%, but we'll do what we can there. We've got a lot of deep scratches right here. So we've got some pretty heavy water spots right here. And this actually is stuff that you notice a lot better with more of a wide lighting rather than a focus beam lighting like this. There's a couple spots where we've got, these are what we called fish eyes, or this may be just where paint went into a rock chip where they didn't level that out beforehand. So that's one sign of a repaint on this fender here. Another sign that I noticed a repaint on the hood was going to be what we call pigtails. And those are like a kind of a curlicue swirl scratch in the paint. The ones that I noticed on the hood here actually are underneath the paint. Those are going to be like in the base coat or in the primer even. It's more like where they sand the paint down to put paint on and don't get it evened out enough, and then it shrinks back a little bit, and those show up years down the road. And only certain kind of lighting that will show those types of defects. The entire roof definitely is a single stage paint. You can tell that it's a lot more oxidized than the front end of the car there, and there's really a lot of heavy scratches. And on the driver's side, we can see where there's a lot of like really deep straight line scratches. This is most likely due to somebody laying their purse on the roof, grabbing it off, coffee cups, whatever. Lots of things that cause that sort of damage, but anything sitting on your roof can really do that. We've got a lot of straight line scratches here on the trunk lid, and that's actually from an automatic car wash. I can specifically see them right in this area here. So I'm gonna go switch the lighting in the shop. And now with just this one light on, I can see a lot of really heavy water spots on the windows. We're gonna try IGL delete on the windows to try to get those water spots off. We may end up having to polish those, even go to using a 4/0 steel wool on that. There's a lot of care you have to use when you're going to that extent to remove water spots. So we're gonna try the IGL delete first before we go to that extent. One thing I noticed on the driver's side pillar here is gonna be a lot of chemical etching on this. Most likely that was due to the car washing. Automatic car washes use a lot of acids and degreasers just to really strip the dirt off your car. And that can cause a lot of damage to your plastic trim. So the passenger side, we're gonna be using solution finish. The driver's side, we're gonna leave that alone just so you can see the major difference between not using a trim restorer and after using a trim restorer. So a couple other things we're gonna do when we do restore the car. So we're gonna be restoring passenger side wiper arm, doing a tape line right down the center and using the solution finish on that cowl. Doing a lot of cool stuff to this car to where it's gonna be wild what the difference is gonna be between the passenger side and the driver's side. Over here, I see a couple scuffs, and then we've got lots of, looks like almost key scratches I don't know if it was a blind person in the passenger seat, but they definitely should not have had a key. So we're gonna see what we can do about removing those. They don't feel very deep, but they do look pretty deep. Hopefully we'll be able to at least improve them. Just lots and lots of heavy scratches, rock chips. We're gonna do what we can with this thing. Looks like the shop that worked on this car before got a lot of wax or polish residue in all these letters. We're going to use some super heavy duty cleaners to break down and remove all that and get that looking really clean. And then last but not least, this exhaust tip here, we've got lots of rust spots on it, but this should clean up pretty good. I've had some tips come in completely covered in rust and a little bit of 4/0 steel wool and some Optimum metal polish, and this cleans up really, really nicely. So we're gonna clean that up, ceramic coat it, get it protected so that it won't rust again. I'm gonna get started with the taping off the car so that in the next video we can start on the paint correction, doing all the touch up. We might have the paintless dent repair guy next time, but it's possible that that'll be a full episode on its own. So make sure to hit the subscribe button, hit the notifications, make sure that you're watching all these because we're gonna be packed with all kinds of restoration stuff on this car.